Hi everybody, my name is Leah Grant. Welcome to the Pure Movement channel. Today we're going to look at deep hip flexion and extension. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to come all the way down onto our mat. I'm about in the middle of my mat. Knees are going to stay bent, feet down onto the floor. We're going to lay all the way down and first just kind of look at the positioning and the mechanics of sort of the pelvis with our classic sort of pelvic tuck tilt and clocks. Gently start to turn the wheel of the pelvis towards your nose, sort of like you're going to pour water out of the small of your back, keeping the feet light. So it's a pulling sensation, not a pushing. And then as you relax the wheel of the pelvis, let it drop away from you so it feels a little bit like now the water is turning and rotating down or sloshing towards the feet. And back and forth, tucking the pelvis. Think about dropping the rib cage back so that more of your spine is soft and long on the mat. You're not trying to push it down into the mat, you're pulling it towards you. And then allow the pelvis to relax. And release. Let's do that just once more. The rest of my body is pretty quiet. I'm trying not to clench my jaw or move so much that the whole spine kind of starts to get into this too big. Allow the pelvis to relax. Now we're going to find our 9 and 3. Or I kind of like to picture like it's a little salsa dance. I like the idea that the hip is going to drop deep and back into the mat behind me as one side of my body starts to go forward on a diagonal. So I'm keeping the pelvis long away from my rib cage. It's just traveling back in space as the other hip goes forward in space. And then I pass it back and forth. Going forward and back. The back, for some of us, might be the trickiest part. I'm not trying to squeegee up and down on the mat. I'm keeping my pelvis long, or my waist long on either side, and then serving one hip forward in space and back. It's like I'm walking, right? And that side of my body took a step in front of the other, right? So it's a little like salsa, like I'm dancing with someone in front of me. A little back and forth. I feel my hamstrings start to light up more in this position. Again, I'm not super heavy into the feet. They're touching the mat, but I'm not bearing down on my feet. So a lot of the movement comes from just the pelvis. Now let's start to combine all of those together in our pelvic clocks. So I'm going to start to turn and rock, rotating. Breathing. Let's switch. Finding the other direction might be the hardest part, so paying attention to that. And then allow your pelvis to relax and feel like it's placed sort of right in a new neutral. Ideally, the hip bones and the pubic bone are in the same plane, right? We don't want to live in a tucked state with that pubic bone either forward or tucked back. So let's relax the wheel of the pelvis and now move. I'm going to actually place my hands here onto my abdomen. The elbows will be quiet. I don't want to feel any movement under my hands as I start to open one leg towards the side. What will happen is that it's going to take the body with you, and you may feel some movement here at the pelvis. So we want to try to isolate the movement in just the hip. So hold the pelvis still and gently start to shift your weight of the right leg out, just a little bit, and then back in. And then the left. Again, hold the other side still and back up. Back and forth. I am using my elbows just a little bit here because I have good feedback in my elbows to help sort of stabilize the pelvis as well. But I don't want this to be an upper body exercise. So make sure that you're not clenching in the shoulders trying to stabilize. You're holding the pelvis still, and your hands are kind of telling you where that pelvis is while the legs are moving. Let's hold that pelvis still and go into a leg lift in march, and then place it back down. Notice the pelvis, again, doesn't go away from you. That little back and forth. You're closing the eye of the hip crease, and then as the leg goes away from you, you want to hold the pelvis still, open the eye of the hip crease back up. You don't want the pelvis and the leg to stay in the same relationship. You want to keep them individuals, right? They just happen to be working together. Someone kind of described our hips as like a happy marriage, right? The femur bone and the pelvis, they're individuals. They are unique, they have their own hobbies, right? They have maybe their own friends, but they are working together to help us move through life. Good, seamless, easy, fluid movements. Holding the pelvis still. There might be a little rock right to left. Try to minimize that as much as you can. Bring your right leg up. Let's keep it there. Bring the other leg to meet it. So again, keeping the pelvis back. Let's try that single leg again to the side. So just your right leg is going to start to open out. Keep pulling back through those abdominals and draw it back up. You might hear my voice is shaking just a little bit. I know I'm working just a little bit deeper again into the abdominals, stabilizing the pelvis and the low back. Keeping the gentle curvature in your lumbar spine. You're not flattening your back. You are in your neutral. A little open and close. Keep that center of gravity back. And close. Let's hit that once more to the right. Do not rock the boat. Do not slosh the water in your pelvis. Coming back to that pouring analogy, everything stays level all the way back in. One foot down, the other one to meet it. Carefully roll yourself up. Let's grab onto a soft ball. This is a Fit ball, USA. It's about 9 inches, maybe a little less blown up. We're going to keep it a little bit soft. We'll lay back down onto our back, and the ball is going to come with us. Place it between the knees, and the arms again will be long beside you. So from this position, we're going to, again, work the wheel of the pelvis, looking at mobility. Now the femur bones are going to hold still as we come back to what the pelvis will do. I'd like you to start by visualizing if your sits bones, sort of like we're flashlights, or they're shining light on the heels, right? You feel the pelvis in your neutral. The gaze of the sits bones is going towards the far side of the room. In order to initiate your bridge work, I want you to picture that the sits bones are going to turn to shine that flashlight up towards the back of the knees. So you're actually shortening the back of the leg tissue. The hamstring pulls, and then allow the wheel of the pelvis to relax. It goes back to a soft tissue. Turning the pelvis as you pull the sits bones towards the backs of the knees, the hamstring grows taut. And then allow the pelvis to relax, the tissue goes soft. Turn the wheel of the pelvis. I am not clenching my glutes. I am just turning the gaze of my sits bones. I feel like the position of my pelvis is going back to that tuck, which is a scoop, a pull sensation. And I'm pulling my pelvis back towards me in space. I'm not pushing into the feet or squeezing my glutes. Allow the pelvis to relax. Let's take that. We're going to go a little bit bigger. I'm going to put my hands on the face of my thighs so that I sort of feel how the eye of the hip crease is opening. Now, turning the wheel of the pelvis, the feet are soft at first. I'm closing the vault of the rib cage. I am long in the low back, and I start to feel a little bit of connection here to the back of my thighs. Not very much. The front of my hips already start to feel open, as though they're kind of turning open. I feel them underneath my hands changing position. Now I want you to push into the feet to float just the pelvis off. It's not the rib cage, it's just the pelvis. And notice how the fronts of your hips start to spiral open, and then tap the pelvis back down. You're still in a tucked pelvis, you're just now pushing into the feet to levitate, keeping the rib cage down. The gaze of the sits bones is turning up to the back of the knees. The hands are on the front of your hips. I'm going to use that exhale to help me out. Starting to feel a little fatigued. I feel the heat start to build, really kind of right there at this smile line of my seat. What I think of as the glute fold, where the hamstring feeds into the glute tissue, or some of us may experience that as our panty line. I'm giving the ball just a tiny squeeze. Let's do 4. As I serve my pelvis forward, I feel the hip bones ever so slightly spiral under my hands. It's very small. Last 2. The rib cage is not coming up. Almost there. Last one, we're going to stay in that lifted position. We're going to go back to our 9 and our 3. So I want you to pull your right hip down in space so that just the right side of your pelvis is touching. I feel more of this right dimple light up, and then serve it back forward as you pull the left hip back in space. So I'm closing more of the eye of my left hip crease while my right hip is staying open, and we're going to go back and forth just a little faster. So it's a tap, 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 tap. Now your rib wall is closed. You are standing into your feet, and all the while the gaze of your sits bones is turning up towards the back of your knees. You feel heat build into those hamstrings. A little bit of work here on either side of your butt tissue as well, but really right up through the back of the leg line into that glute fold. Let's go ahead and keep the hips lifted, both back to our parallel position, lay the spine down. Finally, relax the wheel of your pelvis. You're back into your neutral, right? So you feel like that pubic bone and those hip bones are level. Let's go ahead and now hold the pelvis still as we go back into our femoral glide. The arms are reaching. As you squeeze the ball, you're going to exhale, close the vault of the rib cage, float the legs to tabletop, and then let's go ahead and tap the toes. It's abdominals. The abdominals are going to engage to help hold that low back and pelvis still. Now you may or may not touch the mat with your toes. That's okay. Don't worry about thinking you're supposed to get those toes down. Think about where your pelvis is able to stay stable. We've got 4. Last 3. Give me 2. Finishing that last one, we're going to lift the legs back up into that tabletop position, hold. Now we're moving into some femur bone, some rotation of the head of the femur bone. I want you to turn your right knee into the ball as the foot kicks out just a little bit. You'll feel that the femur bone rotates, and then you're going to bring it back to parallel. And then the left, rotating internally and then parallel. I am closing the vault of my rib cage, working really hard to keep my pelvis in a neutral position. The low back is soft. We don't want to arch. A little back and forth. We've got 4. Squeezing in on the ball as I turn the femur bone. 3. Almost there. Last 2. Finishing that last one right. And last one left. Bring it back through center. Feet come down. Take a big buoy breath. Allow that to finally feel good. All right. So in this position, we're going to play a little bit with sort of the way we feel the femur bone rotate in our walk, in our stride. A very small position, small exercise here, again with the ball. So place your hands back onto the front of your hips. And then again, we're going to go back into that tiny pelvic curl, right? So the tuck of the pelvis pulls the gaze of the sits bones up towards the backs of the knees. Already you might feel the eyes of your hip creases opening just a little bit. And then you are going to stand into the feet to lift the bottom. Lift the bottom. Mine's tired, so it felt like I was like dragging it up. All right, so small movements here. I want you to picture that you're going to pinch the top of the ball with the knees as you pull the pelvis down. Then think of pinching the bottom of the ball with the thighs as you serve the pelvis up. Pinch the top of the ball with the knees as you pull back. Pinch the bottom of the ball with the knees as you serve up. And then keep playing with that sensation. It is a tiny little sensation. Good. As you pinch the bottom of the ball, serving the hips up, you're going to feel a slight rotation of the femur bones as though they're turning out. It's like they're presenting themselves up to the ceiling in the ball. Pinching the top of the ball as you pull the pelvis back down. It's going to feel a little bit like you're closing and you're suctioning them back in. Back and forth. Pinch the bottom of the ball to serve up. Pinch the top of your ball to pull down. Picture you're pinching the bottom of the ball to serve up. I feel it wrap a little bit more to my glutes, to the seat. As I pull down, I feel a little bit more the adductors zip deep into the hips. Let's do that 4 more. Pinch the bottom of the ball as you serve up. Notice we're not moving the ball. I'm just really changing that sensory feedback in my legs and my hips. So I'm thinking of tapering to the bottom of the ball as I squeeze it and serve up. Then I'm thinking of pinching the top of the ball as I squeeze it and pull down. Last one. Pinch the bottom of the ball to serve up. Squeeze the top of the ball to pull all the way down, and allow that finally to relax. Go ahead and remove the ball. Let it all hang out. Roll yourself all the way up. Okay, set the ball out of the way and grab onto a looped TheraBand of your choice. Today I happen to have a Loops medium weight. We're going to look at our Clamshells. So with Clamshells today, I will give you options as to how you'd like to set your body up. You can take the same ball you just had and you can use it as a pillow if you would like, so that you would lay down on your side and rest your head on the pillow. You're welcome to keep the body really quiet and just focus on your pelvis then. Or if you'd like to, you can keep yourself propped up. Maybe you want to prop yourself up onto your elbow, as long as that's okay for your wrist. I think I'm going to challenge myself and do this today. I'm going to feel for the negative space underneath me. It's just something that feels good for me in this moment. Heels are clicked together. Now the loop TheraBand for me, in order to keep it taut, I'm already lifted a little bit in that leg. Your TheraBand might feel a little different around your thighs. So kind of find wherever you feel the TheraBand start to grow taut. Hold on to that position, and then let's think a little bit of the pelvis again. So I could turn the gaze of my sits bones to the wall behind me. Don't know if you guys noticed, but I felt like I sort of overextended and opened up too much in the front. So we're going to think again of pulling the pelvis underneath us, turning the gaze of the sits bones to the backs of the knees, and then stop there. Personally, I feel more of the front of my abdominals illuminate. I feel a little more of these left obliques light up. And I feel a little bit more of that hamstring again, or the glute fold, the back of my thighs. Keep that pelvic position, and you're going to move the femur bone open and a little close. Open and a little close. Now my TheraBand, you're not going to see it move very much. For me, this is a nice, firm tension. I feel that medium weight in my hip, and that's what's important. So make sure that you feel this start to build right here in the dimple of your left glute. We've got 5. Last 4, be careful that the pelvis doesn't move. As the leg comes up, we don't want to feel the pelvis tuck back, or pop back, right, or tilt. We want to keep it still. We're going to keep it lifted. I am talking, my heels are talking to each other. My left glute is illuminated, and now I'm going to pulse into that TheraBand from the dimple of my left glute. We've got 5, 4, 3, last 2, and 1. I'm going to give that a moment. Let it soften. Now you can anteriorly tilt that pelvis if you want. Wiggle your tail feathers. Adjust your position. We're going to come back into that little bit of tension to the TheraBand. Now I'm going to pick my feet up, right? And so I actually feel the bottom foot pressing into the top as though they're holding it up, as though my right foot is holding the left foot up. And again, I'm going to try to lift that left leg. Not very big range of motion here. That left glute of mine is actually getting very tired. So this is a challenging weight for me. I've got tiny little hips. It is burning, guys. It's just, it feels a little bit like it's just like barely flapping. I'm going to keep it taut, and then I'm going to pulse again. Little pulses. 10, 9, 8. Where's your pelvis? 6, 5. Keep the pelvis underneath you. Pull from the front of your body. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Soften that down. All right, last but not least, if you're up for it, we're all going to find a little bit more of a challenging clamshell, which is going to be a high clamshell. The forearm is down. Now your shins are going to stay down. This has a little bit of element now of the right glute and waist coming together. So you're actually going to push into the right knee and the right elbow to lift your bottom. So now you're actually using that right glute and that right hip as well. Left hip is going to lift and lower and lift and lower. Hand can find the floor, hand can find your hip, collarbones are wide, pelvis is still underneath us. So notice it's starting to get a little squirrely and slip up towards your rib wall or tilt back towards the wall behind you. From here, we're going to keep that external rotation, hold on to it, and then little pulses still. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2, and 1. Whew, and bring that down. Go ahead and pick yourself up through center. Ooh, that glute is on fire for me. It's burning. All right, let's lay down on our left side. We're going to do the same thing on the other hip. Laying all the way down. Good. Right hand is there onto the mat, giving you some support. There's a little up sensation here through the left waist, and we're going to pull your TheraBand taut. Wherever that's at, the heels are talking to each other, but they're both soft on the mat. And then just that top leg is going to start to press up and up. I'm not coming all the way down, so I'm keeping that TheraBand, or excuse me, that resistance band soft, but always fully open in a sense. I'm thinking that I'm going to keep it fully extended, but I'm just going deeper into that resistance. Last one. I'm going to go into that resistance. I'm going to hold it there, and then I'm going to pulse further still. 10, 9, 8. I was falling backwards. 6, 5, 4. I think of reaching that knee away from me. 2, and 1. Allow that leg to come back down. The bottom foot is going to kick into the top. So I feel that left adductor light up. And then again, I'm going to pull the resistance band taut. Whew. I feel I'm struggling with a little bit of my pelvic position here. So I'm going to hold a beat. I'm going to turn the gaze of my sits bones underneath me. And that is kind of a very different sensation. My pelvis was really sort of like starting to pop to the wall, and I could kind of feel it just a little bit in my low back. So if that's you, let's slide those sits bones underneath us just a little bit more. Recommit to that neutral pelvis, even on your side, and then press that leg up into the resistance band. I am not getting very far. That's all right. I feel all of the feels. I feel all of the feels. We've got 4. My bottom foot is pushing into the right heel. Last 3. Give me 2. Last 1. I'm going to stay lifted, and then I'm going to pulse that TheraBand, that resistance band. 10, 9, 8, 7. Keep the sits bones underneath you. Think of serving your pelvis slightly forward so that the hip creases are open. Your left and right obliques are closed. And then allow that to come back down. Last but not least is our high clamshell. So we're going to go ahead and bring that left arm underneath us. Push into your left elbow and your left knee to lift through the hips, and we're right back here at that left glute. Hand can hold onto the mat or hold onto your hips. Good. Shoulders are wide, collarbones are wide. Push up into that strap so that you're already into the resistance, and then you're going to lift. 10, 9, where's your pelvis? 8, mine was rotating. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2, and 1. Once again, we're going to go into that resistance. Stay there. Keep your pelvis underneath you, and then pulse it again. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Tap it down. Finally, come out of that position. I'm going to roll through middle. I'm going to remove that TheraBand, or excuse me, the resistance band of your choice. Place it down beside you. Good. So get rid of your loop, laying it all the way down. Let's move into a little bit of a stretch here to kind of relax those hips and those glutes now. So figure 4. The right leg over the left, and just hold a beat, gently using your right hand to push in to the face of your right thigh to kind of help again stretch open the hip. I'm also going to try to shift some of my center of gravity over to that left foot, left hip, so that I'm not falling into the right lane, but I'm keeping as best as I can my neutral pelvis. I like to hold on to my foot with my left hand as I continue to fall to the left lane, dropping the weight of the body over to the left. I'm going to turn my gaze and my arm open to the right. I'm going to drop my hip away from me as I stretch, breathing naturally. I'm holding onto this my left hand is holding onto the foot because what I want to try to do is let go of any of the hip muscles that would be holding me in this position, and just think of my arm as basically an anchor here. That way the hip will really, these hip flexors especially, are going to start to let go. Gently scoop, pulling back through the abdominals, bringing yourself up. I'm going to place both feet back down. Left foot's going to figure 4. Left hand is gently pressing into the front of that left hip, trying to keep your pelvis level. So notice if by pushing you kind of fell into that side of your body. So try to bring yourself sort of back through center. Right hand is going to hold on to that left foot. As you drop the weight of your body over towards the right, turn the left arm open. And this is where I struggle a little bit trying to get that left hip flexor to turn off. The front here, I want that to just relax and open up. The waist stays long. Feels really good. Gently picking yourself back up. Both feet come down. I'm going to roll to the left. Use the right hand across my body to press myself all the way up. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.